Boston, 1962. The winter wind clawed through the alleyways, rattling window panes and carrying whispers of fear. The city wore its cold-like armor, grimy, gray, and alert. Behind closed doors, radios hummed with jazz, baseball scores, and a recurring thread of dread. Police have confirmed a second woman found strangled in her apartment. No suspects at this time. Evelyn Mercer, 26, tucked the wool collar of her coat higher as she stepped off the streetcar. Her shift at the hospital had stretched past midnight again. She wasn't afraid, not really, just tired. The streets were quiet, her footsteps the only sound for blocks. She walked quickly, head down, keys gripped tight in her gloved hand. Her building was a 5-story brownstone on Commonwealth Avenue, faded but dignified. She paused at the stoop, glanced behind her, empty sidewalk. Just a flickering lamplight. Still, she hurried up the steps, unlocked the door, and slipped inside. Her apartment on the 3rd floor was modest, a sofa draped in a handmade quilt, medical books stacked neatly on the table, and a framed photo of her younger brother in uniform. She poured herself tea and turned on the radio. A woman's voice, smooth, unshaken. This latest victim, a 23-year-old secretary, was found with a nylon stocking tied around her neck in a bow. Evelyn twisted the knob and silenced it. She wasn't the type to scare easily. She'd grown up on a farm, endured war telegrams, and handled trauma patients. But something about the recent killings, how ordinary the victims were, how easily the killer moved through their lives, troubled her. She checked the window locks again. Then the door. Then the chain. Sleep came in pieces that night, brittle and shallow. In the morning, her neighbor across the hall, Mrs. Duval, met her with a half-forced smile. "Did you hear?" "Another girl. Just 2 blocks from here." Evelyn nodded. "I heard. They say he didn't even break in. Just talked his way in. Can you imagine?" Evelyn shook her head, then glanced down the hallway. The building's superintendent, a short, balding man, was speaking with someone she didn't recognize. A tall man in dark overalls. He looked up. Smiled. "Morning, Miss Mercer," the superintendent said. "This is Tony. He's helping fix the heating lines." The man's eyes met hers, calm and unreadable. "Pleasure." She nodded politely, though her stomach tightened. She took the stairs 2 at a time. That night, Evelyn returned late again. The wind was louder. The hallway darker. Her key clicked in the lock. The doorknob felt cold. Inside, all was quiet. Too quiet. She reached to turn on the lamp. Then stopped. The faintest scent of cologne hung in the air. She hadn't worn any. Her eyes scanned the room. Nothing looked out of place. But something felt wrong. Very wrong. The next morning, the city awoke to sirens. Another woman, this time in Beacon Hill. Mid-30s. Alone. Strangled. No sign of forced entry. Evelyn stood in her kitchen, staring at the small television on the counter. The reporter's voice was grim. "Boston police urge all women to take extreme caution. Authorities have now linked a 4th homicide to the same suspect. Each victim was found within her own apartment. The entry point remains a mystery." She turned off the set. At work, the hospital staff whispered in break rooms and elevators. Patients asked for stronger locks. Evelyn caught bits of conversation. "They say he wears a uniform, pretends to be a delivery man. No fingerprints. No one hears a thing. Just silence." It all echoed in Evelyn's head. That afternoon, she returned home early. As she unlocked her door, a familiar voice startled her. "Miss Mercer." She turned. It was the man from the hallway, Tony, the maintenance worker. He held a toolbox in one hand, a coil of wire in the other. His coveralls were clean, and his hands looked too smooth for someone who claimed to work in pipes. "Didn't mean to scare you," he said. "Just checking heating lines. Building's got leaks all over." Evelyn nodded, but stayed near her door. He looked at her, tilting his head slightly. "You don't feel safe, do you?" She blinked. "Excuse me?" Boston's crawling with fear right now. Everyone's looking over their shoulder. And you live alone, right? Her grip on the doorknob tightened. Tony smiled faintly. Just be careful. He turned and walked away without another word. Inside, Evelyn locked the door. Then double-locked it. For the first time, she pushed a chair under the doorknob, just like her grandmother used to during thunderstorms. That night, she couldn't sleep. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening. The pipes creaked. A radiator hissed. Somewhere upstairs, a faucet dripped. At 2:12 a.m., she heard it, a soft knock. Then another. Not at her door. Next door. Mrs. Duval. Evelyn sat upright, heart pounding. The knocks grew louder. Then stopped. She crossed the room slowly, pressed her ear to the wall. Nothing. Silence. She didn't sleep the rest of the night. The next morning, the hallway was filled with uniforms. Tape lined Mrs. Duval's door. Her name was on the news by noon. Strangled. No sign of forced entry. No screams heard. Evelyn stared at the footage of detectives walking the hallway she just passed. One of them, in the background, looked strangely familiar. Tony. Same dark eyes. Same calm demeanor. But he wasn't wearing coveralls anymore. Just a plain suit, and a badge clipped to his belt. Only, Evelyn had never seen him speak to a cop. Not once. Evelyn stopped sleeping. She tried. She brewed strong tea, read old medical journals, even left the radio on through the night. But none of it worked. Not since Mrs. Duval. She'd replayed the hallway encounter over and over. Tony's voice, his questions, the way he knew she lived alone. And now, he was gone. Disappeared. The superintendent said the man never worked for the building. Claimed he'd never hired any outside maintenance. No one else remembered seeing him. The police? Overwhelmed. Reassuring but vague. If he returns, call us. That was all they said. Days passed. Then a week. No new killings. The city began to breathe again. Stores reopened after sunset. Women laughed at bars again. Life slowly crawled back to normal. But Evelyn didn't forget. One Thursday evening, she arrived home just before dusk. The hallway was quiet. Her key clicked in the lock, but the door creaked open before she touched it. It was unlocked. She froze. Every instinct screamed to turn and run, but something pulled her forward. She stepped inside, heart thudding, pulse in her throat. The apartment was dim, the air still. Then he stepped out of the shadows. Tony. But he wasn't smiling. I waited, he said softly. Didn't want to startle you. Evelyn's breath caught. Who are you? He sighed, almost regretfully. No one important. Not to the world anyway. He took a step forward, eyes steady. You know what it's like. Being ignored? Always walking by, never seen. Until you make them listen. Evelyn backed up toward the kitchen, inch by inch. He kept speaking, calm, deliberate. They all let me in. Everyone. Just a knock. A smile. I'm with maintenance. Just a quick check on the radiator, ma'am. They never questioned it. Trust is easy if you speak the right way. She reached the counter, hands trembling. Her fingers brushed a knife handle, but he saw it. Don't, he said flatly. You're smarter than that. He moved closer, now only a few feet away. You don't scream. I like that. The others, some of them screamed. Not all. Evelyn's voice was low. Why me? A long pause. Then, almost kindly. You weren't supposed to be next. But you noticed. You remembered my face. She tightened her grip on the knife. Then, in a burst, she swung. Missed. He lunged. The two crashed against the kitchen table, wood splintering beneath them. Evelyn kicked wildly, grabbed a heavy glass ashtray, and struck. Once. Twice. He collapsed. Bleeding. Breathing. Still alive. She ran, barefoot, gasping, into the hallway, slamming her fist against every neighbor's door. Screams. Footsteps. Sirens. By the time police arrived, he was gone. Vanished through the fire escape, blood trailing onto the alley below. But Evelyn had seen him clearly. His face. His voice. His name would come later. Albert DeSalvo. And the city would finally begin to understand the horror that had been living quietly among them all along. 3 months later, Evelyn had left Boston behind. She now lived in a quiet apartment in Maine, closer to her sister, far from city streets that echoed with memory. Yet the fear had followed. She still locked every window. Still checked behind the shower curtain. Still startled at the sound of boots in a hallway. One rainy afternoon, while sorting mail at her kitchen table, a headline on a folded newspaper caught her eye. "Man confesses to Boston Strangler killings." Her hands trembled as she opened it. Albert DeSalvo, 32 years old. Former Army vet. Father of 2. A man who'd posed as everything: deliveryman, maintenance worker, repairman. He had turned himself in. Said he was tired of hiding. Evelyn stared at his photograph. It was him. Same calm stare. Same voice she could still hear whispering in her kitchen. But now he was wearing prison gray instead of coveralls. His hair was neater. His hands cuffed. She read on. 13 women. 13 homes. No forced entry. Most were strangled with their own clothing, nylons, belts, scarves. Neighbors rarely heard a thing. But then came the doubts. Investigators weren't convinced. No physical evidence tied DeSalvo to most of the scenes. No DNA. No fingerprints. Only a taped confession, and even that, some claimed, sounded rehearsed. One detective called him a pathological liar who wanted attention. Another believed him entirely. Evelyn didn't need evidence. She remembered the night he stood in her living room. The weight of his words. The way he watched her, not with rage, but with calculated detachment, like a man sorting through puzzle pieces. She folded the paper and placed it in a shoebox under her bed. Alongside it, she added a photo, a blurry black and white shot of her apartment building back in Boston. The only picture she had left of that place. Later that evening, the television played a recorded interview with DeSalvo's wife. "He was a good man," she said softly. "He played with the kids. Helped with dishes. I never saw this side. If it's true, I don't know what to believe." Evelyn turned the TV off. She sat in the dark, hands wrapped around a mug of tea, listening to the wind outside. It reminded her of Boston again, the way it moaned against buildings, the way shadows stretched too long in empty stairwells. In her mind, she heard his voice. "You noticed me." She stood, crossed the room, and pulled the shoebox from beneath her bed. With quiet resolve, she walked to the fireplace, dropped it in, and lit a match. The flame caught quickly. Photos curled. Headlines blackened. She watched it burn until the last ember faded. But the fear, that stayed. It always stayed. Final voiceover line. "He didn't kill me. But he taught me something far worse, that monsters don't need to hide in darkness. They just need to know how to knock."
Please subscribe my channel so you can get everyday new real stories.